The Super Bowl is right around the corner.
Woo, yeah.
But as we get ready for Super Bowl 54, LIV, Super Bowl Live, or Super Bowl Live, I don't know. How would you pronounce it? Live, live? Is it GIF or GIF? Are you a GIF person or GIF? I think peanut butter is going to be GIF, so I'm going with GIF, but what are you? Live, live, GIF, GIF? I don't know. Either way, Super Bowl's right around the corner. It's about time for a prediction. But before I get into that, just a few house cleaning notes on this year's Super Bowl. Now, there is an interesting tidbit in this year's Super Bowl concerning two of the powerhouse running backs in this league. Two of the most productive and the winningest running backs you're going to see out there. No, I'm not talking about Ezekiel Elliott. No, I'm not talking about Todd Gurley. No, I'm not talking about Le'Veon Bell. I'm talking about the guys you know, C.J. Anderson and LeGarrette Blount. For the past 6 years, those two running backs have actually been in every Super Bowl. Started back in 2014 when C.J. Anderson was running a ball with Denver and they were like, oh, we're going to go beat Seattle, and then they got destroyed. So the next year, Seattle's like, we like that Super Bowl thing. We're going to go this year. But then the New England Patriots were like, hey, Brady needs another ring, so we're going to go ahead and take that Super Bowl from you. We're going to intercept you, and we're going to make everybody think that you should have run the ball instead of pass, when in reality, it was just a good play. But LeGarrette Blount on that Patriots team won himself a Super Bowl. So the next year, C.J. Anderson's like, I ain't going to be outshined by you. So he goes up and just wallops the Carolina Panthers. Well, what does LeGarrette Blount do? He says, I want an NFC South team. They look easy to beat. So they get the Atlanta Falcons. Now, they did spot Atlanta a pretty sizable lead, but they were able to pull it out. And guess who the running back for that New England Patriots team was? It was LeGarrette Blount. So the very next year, the New England Patriots like, hey, LeGarrette, we're kind of getting bored with winning with you. We're just going to let you leave. And so he did. He left, and he went to Philadelphia. And what did he do with Philadelphia? He said, I'm going to beat New England. And the entire nation, outside of Boston, cheered for that. But C.J. Anderson said, I'm not going to let you have all the glory. So the very next year, he was like, I'm going to Los Angeles. I'm going to play for the Rams, and we're going to go to the Super Bowl, and we're going to play the Patriots, who seem to be there every year, except this year. But they seem to be there every year for quite a long time. So C.J. Anderson's like, hey, the Eagles just beat the Patriots. Why can't we beat the Patriots? And I don't know why, but they couldn't. They only scored 3 points. They lost. And as all this is happening, LeGarrette Blount goes to the Detroit Lions, while C.J. Anderson's out there having all this fun in L.A. So this year, C.J. Anderson was like, I don't want to let LeGarrette Blount have all the fun up there in Detroit. I'm wasting my time away in Los Angeles. There's no money. There's nothing to do. It's not nice weather. There's no good beaches. The only place you can find money, beaches, nice weather, and things to do is in Detroit, Michigan. And also because he got cut by the Rams. But he goes to Detroit, and unfortunately for him and LeGarrette, I don't really see either of them making a Super Bowl anytime soon, playing for the Lions. Now this one hurts quite a bit. It's been 26 years since Jimmy Johnson and Jerry Jones couldn't decide on whose ego was more important to the Super Bowl than Emmitt Smith, Troy Aikman, Michael Irvin, Eric Williams, Mark Tuinei, Nate Newton, Tony Tolbert, Russell Maryland, Leon Lett, Kevin Smith, all those guys won. But no, it's all about Jimmy and it's all about Jerry, and it's still going on now. Jimmy's getting to the Hall of Fame this year, and Jerry won't call him, and Jerry won't put a ring on it. But I don't think Jimmy called when Jerry got into the Hall of Fame. They're just never going to make up. But what should annoy Cowboys fans more than the Jimmy and Jerry petty nonsense? More than the fact the Eagles won a Super Bowl? More than the fact the Giants won a Super Bowl? More than the fact that the Steelers passed us in total Super Bowls? And more than the fact that the Niners have an opportunity to do that, is that the Carolina Panthers did not exist at the time that Jimmy Johnson left the Dallas Cowboys, but they have been in 2 Super Bowls since he left, and the Cowboys have been in 1. Get it together, guys. Now this year's Super Bowl is in Miami, and it's a great place to be. Sun, beaches, nightlife, a lot of nice scenery down there. It's where LeBron went when he needed Dwayne Wade to help him win some championships. It's where people go to kick back, relax, and just enjoy life. I even hear this year that Martin Lawrence and Will Smith are coming out of retirement to work a little bit of security for the game down in Miami. And there have been some amazing moments in Super Bowl history down in Miami. But I think we can all agree that the best Super Bowl to ever take place in the city of Miami happened in 1994 between the Miami Dolphins and the Philadelphia Eagles. Now some of y'all may not remember this particular Super Bowl, The game wasn't all that memorable, most times they're not. What was memorable about it was all the news that preceded the game. See, the Miami Dolphins were led by Dan Marino, and he was their star quarterback. He was one of the best quarterbacks in the league. But just before the game was about to happen, he went missing. And nobody could find him. Nobody knew where he was. Well, it turned out, thanks to some great detective work by Truman Burbank, that Dan Marino had actually been kidnapped by a member of the Miami Police Department. I think her name was Einhorn, something like that. But what was really weird about the entire situation is that Einhorn was actually a man named Ray Finkel. And Ray Finkel was a kicker on the 1984 Miami Dolphins team. And as we all remember, as a young quarterback trying to work his way up, Dan Marino was actually the holder for field goals on that 84 Miami Dolphins team. But he didn't hold it right. Laces out, Dan. Ray Finkel missed the kick wide, and the Dolphins lost to the San Francisco 49ers. Marino went on to have a pretty decent career, but Finkel was blamed by everyone and was out of the league. And he plotted his revenge, kind of like a Count of Monte Cristo thing, joined the Miami Police Department, also he could kidnap him before a Super Bowl. His only problem was the detective on the case knew how to talk to Dolphins. Now it is worth mentioning, one of the lowlights of that game was when Truman Burbank started beating up the Philadelphia Eagles mascot, right when the announcer was talking about how he was an animal lover. It didn't really go too well, and he had to go to Africa, but he came back to Miami a little bit later. He just started wearing a mask. So when you're trying to predict who's going to win a Super Bowl, there's a lot of different avenues you can go down. You can look at analytics. You can look at the football guys. You can see who's tougher, who's got bigger lines, who's got stronger linebackers, all sorts of things like that. Now, both teams have their fair share of good players, otherwise they wouldn't be in the Super Bowl now, would they? The Chiefs have one of the best offensive attacks, especially passing, while the 49ers have one of the best front sevens in football, and they've shut down just about everybody they've tried to play. But the 49ers, well, they're not slouches at all on offense. They're extremely efficient running the ball, and they have one of the best tight ends in the game, while the Kansas City Chiefs do have an excellent front seven. Now the Chiefs may have the coaching advantage with Big Red Andy Reid. He was with the Eagles for a long time, took them to the Super Bowl. He wasn't the Eagle coach that beat New England in the Super Bowl. He was the Eagle coach that lost to New England in the Super Bowl. Again, New England's in a lot of Super Bowl, but he's been to the Super Bowl as a head coach. Now San Francisco, Kyle Shanahan, he has been to a Super Bowl, but as an offensive coordinator with the Atlanta Falcons. And it was a Super Bowl he also lost, also to the New England Patriots. Seems to be a thing that goes around these days. So both coaches in this game have actually lost Super Bowls to the New England Patriots. Maybe it's something they can bond over. But Kyle Shanahan may have a little bit of an edge because his dad, Mike Shanahan, won 2 Super Bowls with the Denver Broncos back in the 90s. So he may have a little bit of an edge. Although I don't know how much good it's going to do to hear from his dad. It really helps to have John Elway and Terrell Davis. But you never know. Now a couple interesting tidbits on some of the players in this game. We actually have 2 left tackles from the University of Central Michigan. I don't think that's ever happened before. Eric Fisher for the Chiefs and Joe Staley for the 49ers. Well done, Central Michigan. Well done. Somebody should probably promote that coach that was there somewhere. I don't know. Another interesting fact to keep in mind is that the San Francisco 49ers have a defensive end named Dee Ford, who last year played for the Kansas City Chiefs. Maybe he knows a little bit something about what the Chiefs are going to do, or maybe the Chiefs realized he wasn't good enough for them to win a Super Bowl, so they let him go. Anyway, they replaced him with Frank Clark, who used to be with the Seattle Seahawks. He's a pretty good defensive end, and he is excellent at making people mad on Twitter, which is not really all that hard to do. But the Chiefs also have defensive tackle Chris Jones, who kind of had a little bit of a breakout year and became one of the best interior defensive linemen in the game this year. And along with Tyreek Hill, the Honey Badger Tyrann Mathieu, and Daniel Sorensen, the strong safety, who is just a beast on special teams, they got a pretty loaded roster. Now, the San Francisco 49ers, George Kittle has become one of the best tight ends in the game. Jimmy Garoppolo is developing into a pretty good quarterback. Mostert, this running back nobody had ever heard of, who was cut by like 6 teams, all of a sudden is just running all over everybody. And with the defensive line led by DeForest Buckner's having a real turnaround season, Richard Sherman making his return trip to the Bay Area to get in the Super Bowl, and a rookie like Bosa, that defense is stacked, and that offense is a pretty solid group as well. So all in all, coaches and players, we're looking pretty even. So with that said, we're going to need some sort of other criteria to determine who's going to win this game. Now I could say food, and it'd probably go to Kansas City just on barbecue alone. I could go music and say Kansas City had Charlie Parker, a lot of the greats in jazz and blues. But then San Francisco and the Bay Area in general, since they don't even play in San Francisco really, they've got Creedence Clearwater Revival, they got Jefferson Airplane, they got Metallica, they got Green Day. So, it's going to be pretty tough. It just kind of depends on what type of ice cream you like, I could go by the attractions in the area. Kansas City's kind of flat, kind of in the middle of nowhere. San Francisco, it's by the water, you got the Golden Gate Bridge, you got wine country right around there, so that's a big win for them. But then you can also turn around and say, for history's sake, you got the cattle drives and the railroads, and that might be a column in the Kansas City side. But of course, San Francisco, they got the Navy, and they got all that stuff going on, the gold rush, that's why they're the 49ers. Kind of a fairly even match on all the extra stuff. You can't really go jerseys. They're both red. The Chiefs are red and yellow. The Niners are red and gold. So maybe if you like gold a little more in yellow a little bit more in red, but it's still pretty even there. Now, one thing Kansas City does have as an advantage is it can both claim and disclaim both Kansas and Missouri. Depending on what's going on, they can say, oh, we're actually the Kansas City, or we're actually the Missouri Kansas City. That might be a little bit of something in their favor. But then again, San Francisco, they can say, well, actually, we're really in San Jose. We're not San Francisco. We're not Oakland. So, again, it's really hard to weigh. I'm going to need something just a little bit more important than all of that. And it is a little chilly in here. I didn't want to turn the heater on. Didn't want to waste any money on that. But this jacket is just not really doing it. Let me get into something just a little bit warmer. Oh, yeah. That's a ticket. Post Mahomes. Kansas City Chiefs are gonna win the Super Bowl. Woo! B-Row. Ouch. I don't care what anybody says. Jerry's gonna be the GM until he's like 150. Boom! Da-na-na-na-na-na-na-na.